How's it going, Pokemon fans? Shane here from JollyMonz, and we're going to do a deck today that you probably are surprised you haven't seen yet, because it's arguably best deck in format for Standard, and pretty much everyone else has already done this. But today we're going to go over Gardevoir-GX in Standard. Now, you notice Trevor already did it for Expanded, but it's a much different beast in Standard. So if you don't know what Gardevoir-GX does, it's a big beefy Stage 2 GX with 230 HP, which is quite a lot. For 1 fairy energy, you infinite force for 30 damage times the amount of energy attached to both active Pokemon. That is insane. So for 1 attachment, assuming they even have 1 energy on theirs, you're hitting for 60. Pretty nuts. We also have Twilight Gx for a fairy to shuffle 10 cards from your discard pile into your deck, and it's also incredibly relevant in the current format. When you can dump your items in the early game, and then Twilight GX all of your items back in before they start coming in with Trash Avalanche, it's pretty good. You don't really have to worry about Trash Avalanche as much as other decks who don't have the ability to shuffle the stuff back into the deck. We also have the ability Secret Spring, which is one of the big reasons why this card is so insane. Once during your turn before you attack, you can attach a fairy energy from your hand to one of your Pokemon. So, we'll use something like Zoroark as an example. Say you're playing in Zoroark. They have to have a DCE attached to be attacking, and then you can go attach DCE, use Secret Spring to attach a fairy, so now you're hitting for 150, 180 with a choice band. If you already had an energy last turn, that's 210 for a knockout. It's really good. So with the Gardevoir, we're going to be playing a 4-2 Ralts Kirlia line. Your Ralts and Kirlias are actually kind of important. Very seldomly will they be important, but they can be important. There's several Ralts and Kirlia you can play in Standard. The Ralts we're going to be going with is the Mumble Magical Shot Ralts from Ancient Origins. It had a reprint in Breakthrough, so you can use it. The main reason to use this one is the one from Burning Shadows has, 1 fairy energy for 10 damage, heal 10. The Magical Shot Ralts has the potential to hit for 20 with a choice band 50, and that can be very relevant. If for some reason a Lele knocks out your Gardevoir, but you manage to put 120 on it, you can come in with a choice banded Ralts to take knockout. Again, very rarely will that be relevant, but it could be. You always want to be prepared for that random situation. The Kirlia we're going to play is the Burning Shadows one. The big reason here is there's not as many Kirlias as there is Ralts. Ralts did a few more printings, but Magical Shot with a choice band is going to hit 60. Again, probably not going to be super relevant, but it could be. And then you notice we are playing a 4-2 line because we're playing Rare Candy. And with Vileplume rotated out, there not being any form of item lock in Standard right now, you don't have to run as many of the Stage 2s. The big reason you will is because you don't need to accelerate towards multiple Gardevoirs super fast, so you can afford to just Rare Candy one and evolve Kirlia with the other ones. There is also a Psychic Ralts Kirlia line you can play from, I believe, is it Breakthrough? I think they're still Standard legal. But the big reason you don't want to play those is because being Psychic, they're weak to Psychic, which means they're weak to Garbodor, which means Trash Avalanche just destroys them, so you don't want to play those. With the Gardevoir, you notice we are only playing 3 because we're playing a Gallade. Gallade's main purpose in here is going to be the Premonition ability. Once during your turn, before you attack, you can look at the top 5 cards of your deck and put them back in any order. You get to set up what you draw next turn. You get to set up what you draw with Octillery. You get to set up whatever. It's really good. You know, you can take the dead card on top and put it to the bottom, put the Sycamore on top, put the N on top, whatever supporter, the energy you need, whatever it may be. Sensitive Blade's also a pretty good attack, 2 colorless for 60 damage, and if you played a supporter, it deals 70 more. So, assuming you're playing a supporter during your turn, you're going to hit for 130. Against anything weak to fighting, that's 260. Drampa, Darkrai, stuff like that. Now, the big thing Gallade combos with, like I said, is Octillery. With the ability Abyssal Hand, once during your turn, before you attack, you can draw until you have 5 cards. So you'll Premonition, look at the top 5, put whatever you need on top, and then Abyssal Hand to draw however many cards and get what you need. It's insanely good. The synergy is just insane. Like, Octillery has always been a good card, but this was finally the deck to push him in, like, give him a home. Because for the longest time, everyone was just trying to use him as a Shaman replacement. And that's one of the things you can't do when playing competitively. There's no such thing as a replacement. You either have the optimal list or you don't. There's just no replacing. So, Gallade decks gave Octillery a home. Unfortunately, we didn't really see too many until last format when you saw the quad Gallade list that did really well in, I believe, Mexico Regionals. And now that kind of transferred over to the Gardevoir list now that Gardevoir is legal. There are 2 Remoraid you can play. I forget what the other one does, but you're going to want to play this one just because for 1 colorless you can discard a Stadium. Again, rarely ever going to be relevant, but it could be relevant, and you want to be prepared. To help with consistency, we're going to be playing a 2/2 EV Sylveon line. Sylveon's main use here is going to be Magical Ribbon to search your deck for up to 3 cards and put them into your hand. It's just going to help us set up. If we go second, Sylveon is fantastic because we can get Eevee out, Energy Evolution by attaching a Fairy Energy to just tutor out the Sylveon and put it in play, and then Magical Ribbon to put the cards in our hand. The other thing we can do with Sylveon is going to be the Plea Parallel combo. So, Plea GX puts 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon and all cards attached to them into their hand. This combos very well with Parallel City, because when you play Parallel City, if you put them on the blue side, the player can't have more than 3 bench Pokemon, and they have to discard until they only have 3. So, in a perfect world, you'll Guzma up something like a Lele that they're not doing anything with. And then you will Parallel City them to drop their bench down to 3, and then you will Plea their attackers back into their hand. So again, something like Volcanion, you'll bring up Lele, Oranguru, whoever with Guzma, play the Parallel, and then whatever they're dumping all their energy on, whether it be Volcanions, Ho-Ohs, Turtonators, you put them back in their hand to reset their board state. And that is enough to cripple a lot of decks. Now, it's very hard to pull off this combo because we're not dedicating a whole lot of deck space to Parallel City, but when you have it, it is absolutely amazing. It's very hard for almost any deck to come back from that. Because once you do that, you've already got your Gardevoir going, and you're just steamrolling. And last but not least on Pokemon, we're playing 3 Lele. Because it's Lele, and Wonder Tag lets us search out any supporter we want. Gotta play Lele. Especially helps us set up the turn 1 Bridgets and all that fun stuff. Because this is a deck where you pretty much have to Bridget turn 1. You can get away with not doing it as long as you hit A-rolls on your bench. You don't want to leave it up in the active, but you really need to be playing Bridget on turn 1. For our supporters, we're going to be playing 1 Acerola. With Gardevoir being so tanky at 230 HP, if they don't one-shot it and you have another one set up, playing Acerola to put the weak one back in your hand can be very frustrating for anyone to deal with. Because not only have you taken away that 2-shot from them, they have to try again. So, Acerola is very good in here as a one-of. We are playing 2 Bridget to help us get the turn 1 Bridget. Search your deck for 1 basic Pokemon or 1 basic EX or 3 basic Pokemon, except for EXs, and put them onto your bench. Typically, in most situations, you're going to go get like Ralts, Remoraid, or Ralts, Eevee, Remoraid, whatever. It just helps us get set up a lot faster. We're playing 2 Guzma to switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with their active, and then if you do, switch your active with one of your benched. For N, this is one of those decks, we don't want to discard a whole lot of resources, so our N count is going to be higher than our Sycamore count. N's going to shuffle, both players shuffle their hands into their deck, and then you draw a card for each prize card you have remaining. Again, we just don't want to discard that many resources, so we're only going to be playing 3 Sycamore to discard our hand and draw 7. And the other big thing is with Octillery, we don't need as heavy a draw supporter lineup. It's one of the big reasons why this deck is so good. Let's see. Tools, we're playing 3 Choice Band just to help us hit better numbers, help us take one-shots, because it's going to do 30 more damage to active GXs or EXs. We are playing 2 Floatstone to just help us get the free retreats with Octillery, Lele, Sylveon has a 2 retreat cost, even Gardevoir has a 2 retreat cost, so Floatstone's very optimal in this deck. 2 Field Blower to choose up to 2 any combination of Pokemon tools or stadiums in play and discard them. Helps us get rid of pesky stadiums. Floatstones on Gardevoir so we can Secret Spring to play Lele, whatever the case may be. Again, 4 rare candy to help us skip the Curlia, just Ralts to Gardevoir or Gallade. 1 Super Rod. This is where the list gets kind of personal. You can play Super Rod or Rescue Stretcher. Some people prefer Rescue Stretcher, I prefer Super Rod. Just in situations where I have to Sycamore early and discard like 2 energy, I like being able to Super Rod those energy back into the deck. So I prefer Super Rod. It's up to you if you want to play Rescue Stretcher, whatever you prefer. Player preference there. 4 Ultra Ball, discard 2 cards, search your deck for a Pokemon. Staple. So that's pretty much it on the deck. This is one of those decks that's been pretty much perfected at this point. The only real wiggle room in the competitive scene for this is Super Rod versus Rescue Stretcher, and then 1 Bridget versus 2 Bridget. Other than that, the list is pretty much perfected. You'll see this list running all over the place. Pablo Meza won the Vancouver Regionals with this exact list. I think the only difference was he played the other Ralts. Who was it? Somebody, I think this was also the list that topped, was it Hartford? I'm not sure. But this list is all over the place. You can find it everywhere. This is your optimal Gardevoir list. If you want to play Gardevoir, this is the list you should be playing. Besides that, that's going to be it for the deck profile. I'll see you guys when we play some games, and stay jolly.